Hey everybody, this is a Stanley model CH5 15 horsepower chipper shredder. They sell these at places like Lowe's and Home Depot. They actually call this a commercial service unit, but you know, in my opinion, if you can buy it at Lowe's or Home Depot, it's not really truly a commercial industrial type of machine. But it is 15 horse, so it's actually, you know, for this type of homeowner unit, it's pretty beefy. It weighs quite a bit. It can be wheeled around, and it's also got an attachment you can put on it so you can tow it behind your lawn tractor or your ATV. It has what looks just like a Honda motor on it, but it actually says some other company name, so I'm actually thinking it's a clone Honda engine that they put on these things, some kind of Chinese made one. I found online, another chipper identical looking to this, only in different colors. This has got the black and yellow Stanley colors, but I saw the same chipper from another manufacturer altogether with like orange and gray or something. So I got a feeling this is a Chinese import machine that they just badge it with whoever the heck they want to badge it with. So I want to sell this thing because it maximum branch diameter it can take is supposedly 4 inches, but I think 4 inches, quite frankly, I think is pushing it on this thing. So I don't really foresee me keeping this thing and using it for the property here. I tend to make a brush pile and have a brush burning day and just, you know, take care of a big huge pile of brush in one shot. It has to sit around and dry out, but beats having this thing sitting around. Anyways, so I want to sell it, and it's got an issue. So we're going to take care of that issue, hopefully, today. And the issue is that it's hard to start, and once you do start it, you know, you start it with the choke on. If you take the choke off all the way, it stalls. It just dies immediately. So that is the classic indication of a clogged main jet. What happens is, by having the choke closed, the little bit of fuel that's getting into the engine mixes with that diminished amount of air that's getting by the closed choke, and it creates enough air-fuel mixture to sustain combustion. What happens when you open the choke up? When you open the choke up, the engine is going to try and lean out and pull in more fuel, and when it can't pull in the fuel because of the fact that the jet is clogged, the engine dies. The temptation that some people will have is to just leave the choke on and run the engine that way, and that's a bad idea because your fuel mixture is all screwed up, and it can cause the engine to overheat and damage the engine over time. So you never want to do that. You want to find out what's going on with it and just fix it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate what is wrong with it. And actually, I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this thing down off of the truck. So I think we're going to use the loader. Alright, so when I got this thing, I was told that from previous owners that it worked great and they never had a problem with it, but it had been a while since they had used it, and they didn't need it anymore, so that's why I got it. Well, anyways, when I got it, the gas tank was bone dry. So I put fuel in it, and we've got what we've got now. No leaks, but we've got this carburation problem. So in order to start this thing, we've got an on-off ignition switch here. That needs to be in the on position. Really? That needs to be in the on position? Did I need to say that? I think it's pretty much self-explanatory, right? Okay. And then here's the fuel shutoff, needs to be in the on position. And here's the choke lever, and according to this, the choke, that's full on choke. So that is the position it should be in to start. So, yeah, my assistant here, who isn't wearing any hard shoes, he's just wearing flip-flops. Because I'm surprised he doesn't have a piece of rope to hold his pants up. There you go. He looks like a little Abner. Anyways, this thing should fire right up, and it doesn't. Getting close. That's about half choke right there. I was about to say, well, wouldn't you know it, now it's working perfectly fine. It actually was running with the choke off, which it wouldn't do at all yesterday. However, we were just sitting here doing nothing and it just died. So, this is still a sick puppy. So that's hot right now. See if it'll restart.
Can you hold it?
Sure. Oh, I think it's gonna flip over on you. It's so powerful.
Choke. It's off.
Oh, was the choke on?
Yeah.
When it was just running?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
What are you doing?
Let me ask you something.
What?
Why is the gas switch in the off position now?
I don't know.
I mean, am I losing my mind here, or did
We just turn it on.
well, that's probably why it ran out. I turned it on. You saw me turn it on.
I don't know.
Give it a second. Let that bowl fill back up with gas. It's still hot. Let's try it with the choke off. All right, go ahead. There you go. Already fired.
What are you doing?
I'm getting ready to work the choke. There we go. That's what it's not supposed to do. It won't run with the choke off. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the bowl off the carburetor, and we're going to see if there's sediment and crud in there. And then we're also going to try and clean the main jet without taking the carburetor all the way off. So the nice thing about these Honda style carburetors is they have this built-in fuel shut off, so you can shut the fuel off right here and you can drop the bowl without having to worry about draining the tank or pinching off the fuel line or any of that. There's also a drain right here on the bowl, so if you want to drain the fuel off from the bowl without draining the whole without dropping the whole bowl off the carburetor, you can do that. These are 10 millimeter. It's like almost always these bolts are 10 millimeter on these carburetors. The Japanese love that number 10, I guess. I don't know. So I like keeping these glass jars around instead of throwing them out. We hold on to these glass jars and we wash them, and I use them for just this kind of thing here, like this, draining off fuel. And what that lets me do is I can then hold it up to the light and I can look at that fuel. And oftentimes you can actually see if it's like, this is fresh fuel because I just filled this tank. But you can see if it's like old fuel. If you see like a line where the liquid is separated, then you know that's going to be water in the bottom there, and that's a common problem with ethanol fuels if it stands for any amount of time. Something about the water molecules bonding to it, yada 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 yada. Anyways, so now I got that off, and I'm gonna drop the bowl. So you can see that drain is low, but it's not the very bottom, so there might still be some crud and fuel at the very bottom of this bowl. Oops. So the other thing to keep in mind is the relative position of this bowl. You can see I can rotate that bowl around. So I kind of want that facing the same place where it was. Some of these bowls it doesn't make much of a difference, but on some of these there's a shape to the bottom of the bowl. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what I'm looking at in the bottom of this bowl. Alright, so down in the bottom, right down in here, there's this stuff. Okay, that's the bad stuff. That little bit of crud is what was left behind. There was just a little bit of fuel that was probably left behind when this was put away. The fact that the bowl, fact that the tank was bone dry tells me that whoever put this away probably figured that a good way to store it would be to just run it out of fuel completely. And they may have even taken the time to drain the bowl through that little bowl drain. The problem is, you see, here's the bowl drain, that's above the bottom there. So that little like quarter-inch, not even quarter-inch of fuel that sits in the bottom of this bowl probably evaporated out and left behind this garbage right here. And you can bet that that stuff probably went into the carburetor jets.
What happened?
So you see that crud right there?
Mm-hmm.
That little bit of crud right in there.
Mm-hmm.
That probably got into the jet on the carburetor. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and clean out that main jet without having to pull the whole carburetor off. For starters, I'm going to use a little bit of carb cleaner just on that stuff that's in there. So that's what that looks like cleaned up. You can see there's that discolored area there. That's never going to come back. That's where whatever plating or whatever it is that's on this carburetor metal is damaged. There's a thread-in jet in there that is what I'm actually trying to clean. And what we'd ultimately look to do is get that out. There we go. This is carb cleaner. Don't want to overdo it on tightening those screws. Alright, I decided to take the air filter off while it was, laboring with the choke partially on. If I took the air filter off and it improved, then it would mean I had an air filter restriction just from a clogged air filter. And that wasn't the case. The interesting thing is, though, when I put my hand over here acting as a choke, it actually dies. this lever almost appears as if this is off for the choke and this is on. This little diagram clearly shows off to the left, on to the right. But that's not how this is acting. So now I got to verify whether or not this choke is opening and closing. This thing might be, I might be trying to start it with the choke off cold, which is explaining poor start, and might be trying to get it to stay running with the choke full on, which would also explain a lot of things. Wow, so I took this little plastic cover off the top here, and I could stick my finger down in here and I could feel the butterfly, and the butterfly is in the open position right now. And if I flip the lever this way, oops, that's the fuel. If I flip the lever this way, I can feel it's definitely closed. That's closed, that's open. So, looking at this diagram, it's clear to me that when this is in the off position, that's when the choke is actually open. I'm sorry, closed. And this is the open choke position. It's absolutely the opposite of what I would expect. Now, if they had put start and run over here where on is, I could kind of understand that. You want the choke closed for start and over here for run. But this is off and on, clearly. And the way this lever works is this lever is actually off to the side and pivots and has this rod that works the choke lever right here. So there's nothing wrong with the mechanism. They've just got this labeled incorrectly. So let's try this again. All right, so I'm not even gonna bother waiting. I put it all back together, got the air filter and everything all on there, because I now have a feeling that there was really nothing at all wrong with this thing, and it's just that, in my opinion, that label is mislabeled. So this is choke on. So that actually started right back up because as soon as I put the choke off, because the engine was still hot. So now let's try restart. Well, so it works. I mean, it works as it's designed. I'm sure it probably works better on green material than this really dead dry stuff that I had laying around. And the other issue is, of course, you end up with these short pieces here that don't get chipped. I'm wondering whether or not, when you buy this originally, whether or not this comes with a pusher stick, like maybe a plastic thing that goes in here and has some kind of flange on it to stop it from going in too far and hitting the cutter blades, but allows you to force in whatever's in that chute, these short pieces, to get all the way down in there. I did not get that, so I mean, I'm sure somebody could fashion one easy enough with a probably a 2x4 cut to the right length, and maybe a piece on the end of the 2x4 to keep it from falling all the way in, and then some sort of a handle. Any number of ways to make something like that. Easy enough is my point. Now that it's off, I can safely reach in here and I can pull out this stuff I'm talking about that ends up just in there, and that's what you were hearing when it was coming down. The RPMs were coming down to 0. Oh, I took my hand stuck in there. That would have been hilarious. Went in past the elbow and these things grabbed me pretty good. Oh, felt like a veterinarian doing an exam on a horse. So the moral of the story here, I guess, is don't always assume something's broken. You know, check obvious stuff. If I had thought to verify the position of the choke butterfly before I did anything else, I could have avoided any of this. But then we wouldn't have a video, and you guys wouldn't be able to see the new haircut. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Take care.